Tēnā koutou, kua hui mai nei, ki tēnei whare o tātou, ki te kōrero, ki te whakarongo, ki ngā kaupapa o tō hapore, nai mai, haere mai, nā reira tēnā koutou katoa. Welcome along everyone to our Waipapa Papanui-Innes Community Board meeting for today. First up, just a couple of reminders. We are live streaming this meeting on both our Facebook page and on our YouTube channel. A reminder, elected members, you need to have your cameras on at all times, and others, can we ask that you please turn your cameras off and stay muted until we come to you. So moving on to item 1, apologies. We have an apology for lateness from Simon Britton. So do we have a mover and a seconder for that?
I'll move.
Pauline and Mike has seconded. Put that motion. All those in favour? Right, that's carried. Item 2, declarations of interest. I haven't been informed of any, but if something comes up, do shout out. Item 3, confirmation of previous minutes.
I'll second. Mike, do you want to move it?
Yeah,
I had one thing. It was item. Right.
Page.
Previous minutes page.
13.1, is it?
13.1, yes. I'm trying to find it. The way that reads, it sounds like the council is needing the community to do the weeding. It can be read sort of two ways. So I just want that wording changed so that it is clear that, it says, Chairperson requested information on the maintenance schedule for the plantings along Dudley Creek on Stapleton's Road, indicating issues with it not being maintained and residents needing to contribute to the maintenance. Can we just reword that so it doesn't sound like we need the residents to do it?
I think it's confusing because, sorry if I may, this is where there's some residents who are really willing to do the maintenance, but they want the weeds taken away. So maybe say indicating issues with it not being maintained, full stop. The residents are willing to contribute to the maintenance, but want a direct liaison with the council to have the weeds taken away. That's what they wanted, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think that covers it a wee bit better.
How do I turn the camera off?
Okay, so if we're with that change, you were happy to move it, Pauline?
I thought Mike was moving them.
Oh, Mike was moving. Pauline seconded. Put that motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
That's carried. Oh, morning, Emma.
Apologies, everyone. I lost my password. Well, it changed on me.
Oh no.
Okay, right, we're moving on to item 4 now, public forum. And we have Jennifer Dalzell here to speak to us about maintenance of roadside plantings on Julius Terrace and Stapleton's Road. Welcome.
Apologies for lateness from me as well.
Good morning, Simon.
Right, so Jennifer, I'll hand over to you and you've got 5 minutes.
Okay. Well, I've looked at your agenda, and on page 141, you say that they're going to come back and do some spraying, and that also the maintenance has been affected by COVID. Well, the thing is, this is an ongoing issue, and over half of my SNAP send solves that I send to the council are about the weed issue in those Dudley Creek plantings. And like, I don't understand why they use that as an excuse. Like most businesses, if they can't do the work they're contracted to do, they subcontract it to someone else. Like, why don't they just ring up the local Mr. Jim and tell him, go and pull out those weeds? And also, like, they are paid to do that job, but they just don't do it. And I don't think the residents do want to do it. The last weedathon that Craig Given had, he was the only person that turned up. I think him and David Duffy. That like there was one where more people came and the weeds did lie around for a long time, and eventually the council came and picked them up. But like you've got a discretionary fund. Could you pay a local gardener to just come and pull out the weeds? Like, they're taller than me and they're all seeding everywhere. That's just an idea. So can I leave that with you and move on?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
The next thing I want to talk about is page 72 of the agenda, and that's the speed restrictions in North Richmond and Shirley. The road that you've left out is Shirley Road. Like that needs to have speed restrictions between Petrie Street and Woodville Street, because there's the school, the pedestrian crossing, 2 bus stops, the Shirley playground. That whole area needs calming, and so I'd like you to consider that, but because you're going to be talking about that today. It just seems crazy to do it on all these streets on either side, but not on Shirley Road. Right? Can I move on? We all got that?
Yes.
Yep.
The next one is item 10, page 51, the Richmond CRAF. Like when were we consulted about any of this? Like, I remember something a long time ago where you could go on an interactive map and mark down things that you needed doing, but this whole thing is up for approval, and it said there was some consultation in November and December last year. Well, I don't remember that, and other people don't remember it either, because especially page 66, outside my house and opposite the play centre, what they've got there is they're going to do away with all the parking, put in a whole lot of planters. This was first consulted on in May 2017. The play centre and I and all the local residents sent a petition in to Andy Cameron and his team, and I've got the emails, and they put that on file, and it was going to be referred to before they did when they said they were going to do the next one, which was in 2019, but it's been delayed till now, but they haven't accessed any of that information at all, because the play centre, this is where the play centre park, also the school parks all up and down the street. And the other thing is they're putting a speed hump in Julius Terrace. There's like 5 houses on Julius Terrace. The roads but was narrowed when Dudley Creek was done, that nobody speeds down there. The speed hump needs to be on Chancellor Street, because people do, some boy racers do speed down here and do their burnouts at the end of the street. So like where was our opportunity to discuss these things? And also the cycleway, like do the residents know about the cycleway? Do they know they're going to lose all their parking? And I don't know anyone that knows anything about this. So there's been some big miscommunication somewhere. So have I used up my 5 minutes?
I think you've got 1 minute left. If you
Oh, really? Oh, good. Oh, okay. And also the other part of Chancellor Street between Julius Terrace and Warden Street, like there's only 4 houses there. Is there need for a speed hump? Yeah, like they're dead end. These are little dead end streets. And like, I mean, I've only looked at what affects me. Like, I've got no idea about all the other streets and whether any of the residents have been given even know what's about to happen to them, because I'm pretty sure they don't. And so, like, are we going to have any opportunity? I mean, I'm going to immediately get off here. I'll have to email the whole team, whoever, I've got their names here somewhere. Kelly Griffiths, Samantha Charlin, Sharon O'Neill, Lynette Ellis and Jane Davis, and say, like, this can't happen on Chancellor Street because no one's been given a chance to talk about it. Okay, well that's all I've got to say.
Okay, thanks Jennifer for that.
Like the weeds, they really need dealing to soon. Like they're seeding everywhere now. So I hope you can think up something. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Jennifer. With regards to the weeds, that is an issue that we are well aware of, and we're working on with staff in the background.
The thing is, like staff, like are staff the people that do it? Like, hasn't somebody got a contract? Like, is there any point talking to staff about it? Like, everyone's talked to them. Jake McClellan's talked to them, you've talked to them, Emma Twardell's talked to them, you know, like.
Yeah, it's an issue we're aware of and we're looking at trying to get it resolved.
Okay,
Okay.
good.
And
Okay.
with regards to the craft project, we will be discussing that later on in our meeting.
Okay.
So there might be some answers to your questions in there.
Okay, great.
Okay.
And what about the possibility of speed calming on Shirley Road?
We will be discussing that report as well in the meeting.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Cool.
Bye.
And next, we also have for public forum Joe Byrne. So welcome along, Joe. Good to see you. And I'll hand over to you for your 5 minutes.
Kia ora. I'm here today just to talk on behalf of our community group from 10 Shirley Road. We just wanted to let the community board know that we've had a car boot sale on the site, made tricky by dear old COVID and all the requirements, but it was quite successful. All the spaces were taken and there was quite a lot of comment that a lot of people really enjoyed it and would like things like that to be regular. We've been talking about things that we'd like to do for the site. One of the things we'd like to do would be to put a sign up. There are some old signs on the site from the old community centre, which are well out of date now and they're faded and look really grotty. We'd like a sign up to show the history of the site and also to sort of give people the chance to have some input into the future of the site. And we're wondering whether there are requirements about consent and things before we go and start putting signs up. The other thing we wanted to follow up about was the feasibility study. So last year when we put a successful bid into the long-term plan, part of that was a feasibility study to look into our concept of combining the community centre and library on the site, which is a brilliant idea, of course. And there's been no follow-up. No one has contacted us. We don't know what's happening, whether there's a timeline for that, if there's a team appointed or if anyone's responsible. So we'd appreciate if that could be followed up, please. The other thing we would like on the site that's been commented is the lack of public facilities. There's no toilets. Adults are peeing in the bushes and things because there's no public facilities. It's really unsanitary. And, you know, if the council wants people to use the site, they have to provide facilities. It's not okay to send people over to the retail area and things. We need something that people can actually use. And, you know, there's temporary facilities on Westminster Park. That would be really great. They're just prefab buildings that could be put on and taken away when we get our proper community centre. The other thing we'd like to talk about is traffic calming on Shirley Road. It's pretty crazy along there. And I think with the long-term view of getting the community centre back, we need to look at the use of that road and make sure it's actually community friendly and not car centric. We'd also like to organise a site visit with the community board at some stage to talk about how we could maximise the use of the site with a community centre and a library, and some of the other ideas that we've got for the site, which include an accessible playground and my change place accessible bathroom facilities for adults with disabilities. And that's all I've got for you today. I don't know if anyone's got any questions.
Great, thanks, Joe. Does anyone have any questions for Joe?
Good points, Joe.
Yeah, I was just wondering, when you're talking about signs, Joe, what kind of size are you thinking about? And are you thinking about designing and printing them up yourselves or requiring assistance from the board to do that, or what?
Well, we'd really like somebody artistic on our group, but we don't have anyone at the moment. So if you're able to support us with that, we'd really appreciate it. But we would like to have a sign that talks about the history of the site. One thing we noticed when we were getting signatures for the petition is a lot of people who are new to the area have no idea that we used to actually have a community facility in our area. And they were really surprised by it. And, you know, it's been vacant for so long now. Children have got no idea either. It's really quite sad that people don't know the history of our area. And I think a sign would be really good to sort of talk about what we had in the past and what we could do in the future to make it positive for the community.
Right, thank you. That's cool.
Any other questions? Okay, thanks for bringing that up, Joe. We will get back in touch with you about some of those issues.
Lovely.
get some information, and we will definitely be in touch.
Brilliant. Thanks,
Great.
guys. Have a great
Thanks,
day.
Jo.
Bye.
See ya.
So we now move on to item 5, which is deputations by appointment, and I believe we have Dave Gardner. You there, Dave?
Yep. Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hey.
Welcome along.
Thank you. Well, my name is Dave Gardner. I live on Grimsey's Road south of QE2 Drive, and I often travel by bicycle along the Northern Corridor extension and along Cranford Street shared pathway to drop my son off to preschool and to head to my work. And I occasionally travel by car into the city along Cranford Street. And I've noticed a few issues since the Northern motorway is opened. Merging from on the Cranford Street roundabout is very difficult with the speed of the cars coming from the Northern motorway extension. There is that sign, but the electronic sign, but I believe it's in the wrong place. Shouldn't it be before the 50 kilometer hour speed limit? So you're slowing people down before the actual sign rather than after, because that's the legal speed limit, 50 k's an hour. And then people would not be braking on the corner. There's also a lack of sort of design to slow people down naturally. And I believe the cause for it all is the Northern Corridor. And from my kitchen, I can see the overpass for it. And that's the 80 kilometer an hour section. And you can tell a lot of cars are going 100 k's in the 80k section, which is then, causing the problems further down on Cranford Street. Also a lot of, I've noticed it's very difficult for cars to turn out of the businesses on Cranford Street just because of the speed cars are heading north on. They like to speed up to 60 k's an hour in that section because the road gets a bit wider. And I notice a lot of people coming out of placemakers and the pub and the petrol station, they just can't see. Also, when cars want to turn into those businesses, it's the cars are just going really fast to be able to turn into there safely. I'm surprised there's not any crashes yet. I've also noticed on Rutland Street, that's a 50k road, but I believe that should be 40 because I also go along the shared path there. And I notice when cars want to turn right or left across the shared path, they have to slow down, but there's cars behind them that still want to go 50 and they're traveling quite close to each other. Also the extension issues. I head to the city by car and I choose not to go via the two roundabouts onto the Northern extension because I don't get a feeling of safety having to get up to 80 kilometers an hour up the on-ramp and then all of a sudden have to go back down to 50 when I've got cars going 80 to 100. I'm not going really slow. But I'm not putting my foot down to accelerate really quickly, and dangerously. And the same issue heading north from Cranford Street to Winters Road off the off ramp. It's a very short distance to try and get up to 80 kilometers an hour and then have to slow down on the 80k section before you get to the off ramp, which is 50, because you're supposed to be going 50 at the 50 sign, not after the 50 sign. And similar to QE2, the west of the extension, coming from the roundabout, you have to speed up to 80, but doing that comfortably, it's about half the distance of the whole 80k section. And then about 4 or 5 seconds after that, you need to start slowing down before the 50k sign rather than after, because I notice a lot of people still go faster than 50 past the 50k sign. I think the cause of the issue is Northern Corridor. The Northern Corridor also has an issue with the T2 that it's not part of the city council, but it's something to think about because the speed limit for that is 100 kilometers an hour, But if you're a heavy vehicle or a light vehicle towing a trailer, the maximum speed you can go is 90 kilometers an hour. And if someone's going 90 kilometers an hour, and you're a single occupant in your car, you can't use the T2 lane, which will cause frustrations and illegal overtaking into that. So I believe 100 kilometers is the wrong speed limit for there, because that's also a source of the issue in Cranford Street. You know, people are going, you get that in the out of the city, you know, people going 100 and then have to go down to 50. It's too much of a drop. I think 70 might be better for the northern extension. But if you can convince NZTA to drop that to 80 on the northern corridor, that would be helpful for Cranford Street. So then people don't get the feeling of, 50's too slow. And I just found some statistics about the northern corridor. One person's already died on it from the speed, and there's a motorcycle was seriously injured on the 16th of February this year. And then a day after that, there was another crash. So there's been 3 crashes on the northern corridor so far in just over a year, in which one person died. So, yes.
Great, thank you, Dave. Ellie, you've got a question?
Yeah, thanks, Dave, for coming and talking to us about this from your information you sent through. I think what's really, I have got a question, but I just want to say, I think what's really important is local knowledge and experience, because, whenever people raise these things, I just get a feeling that it's not being taken that seriously, and yet those of us who live here and use this all the time just see it constantly. Yeah. So 2 questions. Mm-hmm. I know I hear what you're saying about the speed. Do you think that it's more about a lack of enforcement as opposed to the speed? If there was visibility of road police in the area, do you think that would also help?
Oh, that would also help. But yeah, also the big issue is a poor design.
Right. Okay. No, that's yes, good to know.
Police presence would help. Like okay. a speed camera. You stick a speed camera in there and people would drop to 50.
Yeah. I mean, the second question is about the active sign that's there at the moment. And I know, I hear what you're wanting to do is perhaps bring it back a little further so it gives people more of a warning. What I've wondered driving down there is whether that active sign actually needs to be further away. The reason for that is it would then capture the people who are not coming off the CNC at that high speed, but are just coming down Cranford Street and around the roundabout. Because because there's a lot of speeding from that group as well.
It's not so bad, and I believe that they're speeding because of the poor design, and they have to try and match the speed that's coming off the northern corridor.
Okay, all right. What would you do design-wise? Have you had some thoughts about that? What sort of design do you think would slow it?
Overseas they use things to narrow the road, and they also use like vertical columns, something that's vertical like trees or something, spaced differently. So imagine you have the 100-kilometer section, you have trees that are spaced quite a big distance away, and then when you get to the 80, the trees are closer, and then when you get to 50, they're even closer, so you get the feeling of speed. With how it's designed, there's nothing really tall at all. So people don't notice that things are going by very quickly. They only see things in the distance, which don't move very fast.
Thank you. That's very interesting. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Mike, did you have a question, comment?
No, it was more of a comment. So I think I can just wait to the correspondence.
Yeah, because this isn't about the noise, because I was never really affected by the noise compared to people on the Northern Corridor. This is more of what I've noticed and experienced since it's open.
Yeah, I've gone down there and just sat there for a while, and what you're saying is exactly what's happening. So yeah. I've sent you. I finally got a response from staff that I just sent you before as well. So I haven't had a good read of it because I got it last night, but yeah.
Thank you.
So you should have an email.
Cool.
Okay. So thanks, Dave. We've got the email from Mike, and as Mike said, we will be discussing it more just slightly later in our agenda when we get to correspondence in a few minutes.
Yep.
So thank you very much for coming and speaking.
Have
No
you
problem.
sent that
Thank you.
email to all of us, Mike?
Yes, he did.
Thank you.
Cool. Right, item 6, presentation of petitions. We don't have any. That takes us on to item 7, correspondence. So we have that correspondence from Dave. Are there any questions or any discussion around that? Go ahead, Mike.
I guess it's what we need to do moving forward, because there is definitely a speed issue there. They're still coming off that motorway too fast, and if you do look at the cars going around the roundabout from Cranford Street, they do seem to be going, at a good speed. They're not speeding. So then the two merge together. I did it the other day, and it's quite intimidating when you're trying to merge at 50 k's. You've got a car doing 80, 90 k's right up behind you. Obviously, at the moment, NZTA still control, the NCNC still have the control that road, not us. And obviously, we want to try and get everything sorted before the council takes it back. I think we need to request to start with an urgent briefing or with our transport staff, just to go over the concerns that we know are happening in there, and then try and get them to have a meeting with Waka Kotahi or CNC, whoever's looking after it, to try and actually get those issues sorted.
I agree with that, Mike, and I also think that liability, where does the liability sit when it comes back into council hands for any flaws in design? And my other little question to you is, when does it actually come back into council hands?
Well, I don't have the date. In the email, it says it's in the future. So I know there's a few issues, obviously, the council are also aware of, that are trying to get sorted. So my assumption would be it wouldn't come back till we accept it's actually in the right state. But it'll be good to make sure that we have a conversation with staff, that we're all on the same page, and making sure they're actually, what is the process moving forward and what we can do to influence that as well.
And so what are those issues?
Well, this is why we need to have a briefing with staff.
Well, no, sorry, Emma, you're asking questions. I've got my hand up, but I'll wait till you're finished.
I was just going to ask, Mike, was it meant to be back in council's hands in November, and it's being held over due to solving some issues?
Well, I don't know the exact time, but obviously if you look at the fact that the seal was the last seal was never put on, that slowed everything down as well. So there's a number of issues with there in terms of the vegetation, etc. So there's a few things that have been sorted. I don't have the list of what they are, but that's why I think it's important that we have a conversation with the transport staff at council, so we're totally aware of everything that's happening.
Ellie, you had a question?
Yeah, I'm really frustrated by not knowing this stuff. Having a conversation with staff. If there's an issue with one of the major, elements, transport, infrastructural elements in our ward, why on earth do we not know about this? Why are we having to ask questions of staff? I mean, the thing is, this takes so long. It's really, really frustrating. And Dave's point about the accidents and, that one death, the fact that the police can't get on the motorway to monitor speeds. The police can't get on the motorway to monitor it because it hasn't been designed with enough space for a car to sit there, as we've heard. I mean, hang on, Emma.
No, sorry.
The problem is, and you can hear my frustration, that there isn't any no one's being proactive on this. And it's great that Mike can send Dave's concerns to staff, I didn't know we could do that. I sent mine to the community board to come in as correspondence. I'm frustrated by the lack of action, connection with Civic, and understanding what's going on this bit of road that is such a key part of our environment. I don't want to have a briefing, actually, because that we'll have to book it. We have to then have the briefing, then we get more questions out of that. What I think we should do is put all of these concerns to the correct staff or whoever, maybe it goes to your transport committee, Mike, and we put them down in writing, and then we have some sort of meeting with them. I don't want to sit down and have a conversation. It's just going to make things longer.
Sorry, Ali, can you repeat that? I had cars speeding past. I couldn't hear you.
You taking the proverbial.
Well, I am.
Well, go back and listen to the recording, Emma. I don't want to waste people's time by repeating. It's just angry frustration. But I'd just be keen to know perhaps what you think, Emma, and our city councillors who sit in at Civic.
Okay, we'll come back. We'll just park back for a second, Ellie, and we'll go to Simon, who's been waiting patiently.
Thanks, Emma. Yeah, I think some of the issues that Dave has raised in that correspondence are consistent with what we've heard from others in the community, particularly issues around the shared path, visibility, safety, and so on, down at the top of Cranford Street. My experience is that having that variable speed sign or the flashing speed sign is making it easier for southbound Cranford Street traffic to merge where the CMC joins, and it'll be really interesting to see some data on that. And I think there's some information on that in the response that has come back from staff via Mike. I think that, yeah, I also agree the southbound merge from QE2, where there's a merge lane, takes you up as the bridge comes down. Visibility is really challenging there. And yeah, I think, speeds need to be looked at, and either the design design's hard to change now, of course, but anything that could be done to give drivers cues about the speed to keep the speed at least to the posted limit in that area. Because as the bridge comes down, the ramp goes up. It is very, very hard to see when you're looking over your shoulder to merge. So yeah, appreciate the concerns, but yeah, I think the concerns. I think it's only arrived during the meeting, but some of those we have had the first kind of round of answers from staff. So I'm not quite sure what the best next step is, but something further I think is needed.
Thanks, Simon. Can I ask our staff for advice here on what the best next step would be? Max, do you have any recommendations on how we can actually get something happening?
We've got staff that can potentially answer some of the questions. We've got a briefing afterwards, so we could ask Ross some of the questions. I mean, from what I've heard, the corridor that you're asking for is not necessarily a briefing, but it is to spend some time with some staff and say, here are the concerns that we're hearing from constituents, and here's the lived experience. These are the things that we are worried about, and these are the things that are frustrations. And then it's giving those actions to staff to speak to Waka Kotahi to say which of these are going to get resolved, and can you come back? It's almost like giving them it's not a wish list, it's not a snag list, but it's something like that, and coming back and saying, come on, here are the things that we as governance we would like some answers to, please, and putting that forward. So I don't think it's a briefing necessarily, but it does sound as if you need to get the issues out on the table. The easiest way to do that would probably be via a workshop rather than you could all send in emails from constituents and things that you've noticed, but it's much easier to speak it and say it. We could do that via Zoom. I don't think Ali, I hear your point around it takes a long time. I think it does if we're asking for a briefing and if we're asking for a whole load of complex information to be presented. But if it's literally just here are the concerns that we've had, we need you to hear this, and then we need you to come back and tell us how you're going to action this. I feel as if that's relatively straightforward.
Emma, can I just ask further to that though, Matt, and I think that's a good suggestion. It's clear from the response from staff to Mike that there are questions we can already ask prior to that next thing. I mean, to get a response from staff, the section of QE2 Drive is still the responsibility of NZTA WK and will be handed over to CCC sometime in the future. We will review the issue then. I mean, that just makes me want to hit my head against a wall. I mean, we need to be asking, when will it be handed over? What's holding up the handing over? And what will the review be? I think there are questions out of this that we can get just to keep us a step ahead if possible.
Yeah. Something else?
Sorry, I do. I'll add to that, Ali, because I completely agree. But if there is a hold up at council due to issues that haven't been solved between Christchurch City Council and NZTA, would it not be as simple as asking for that list? I mean, let's see what the actual problems are. Thank you. And then we add to them. It's a piece of paper, you know. It should be there. We should get it this afternoon. I'm sick of waiting. There's information there. There's stuff going on. We should be involved.
Right. So we need to word a resolution around this correspondence. So action is going to be requesting an urgent conversation with staff around the issues raised by Mr. Gardner.
I'd like to put it that we want to see the issues that have been raised, that council have raised with NZTA to stop the conversion of the road into City Council hands, which I'm sure was meant to happen last November.
Yeah, we can ask those questions in the background. There will be more questions that come from those responses that Mike has seen.
Sorry, can I just jump in here too? You know, I with respect, Emma, I don't think it's a conversation either. I don't know whether that's the right word. I think this is bigger, and we can perhaps in a resolution suggest, you know, that the board undertakes to urgently progress, you know, communicating the issue of the problems that are being communicated to us by residents and that we had seen ourselves. This may include emails to garner information and or a meeting with staff urgently. I think we've got to be really broad about it rather than specific, so that it gives us a bit of room to move as to what we can do.
Okay.
But I'd take staff advice on that, because I don't know what the best. So, you know, undertakes, I think we've got to put urgently in there, undertakes to urgently address issues raised by constituents and as observed by board members related to the CNC, speeds, enforcement, driving manner or whatever, driving behaviour,
Design.
That have caused deaths.
Well, no, I don't know. I'll leave that up for the moment. And then
Ellie,
full stop.
Ellie, I just wonder if you wanted to put repeatedly raised.
Yeah, I agree, Pauline, absolutely. Issues repeatedly raised by residents. No, repeatedly before raised, I think. Thank you. In regard to speed, behaviour, driver behaviour, design, speed limits, and there can be an and there if you like, along the CNC, particularly immediately departing the motorway, heading. What are you heading there?
It's on the extension.
Oh, well, okay. Yeah, okay.
Merging point on the extension.
Yeah. Yeah.
You didn't put enforcement in there yet.
NAE.
Lack of enforcement.
Yeah, observed by members in regard to speed, driver behaviour, design.
Lack of enforcement and speed limits.
Yeah, thank you. We do the merge point on the extension of the scenes on the extension. Whatever you want to put in there, I haven't got the right word.
It's called the NAE.
Yeah, Northern Arterial Extension.
Okay, thank you. Let's put the
maybe
whole.
We could put full stop. The board is extremely concerned about these safety issues, because it is about safety, and that's one of the.
Thanks, Pauline. I'd like the word safety in there. Emma T, I saw you mentioned that as well.
We put safety up in that list of things above. The board is extremely concerned. I think we've already said that. I just think safety should be one of the things that the board urgently needs to address.
Make it the first one. So it means
yeah, okay.
observed by members in regard to safety.
Yeah.
And then just leave that at the end too. It's fine. It's just
well. The only thing is, I think it's really important that we say undertaking. Urgently addressing these issues may include, but isn't limited to, meeting with staff, requesting information. Meeting with. I think we have to reiterate, though, that urgently addressing these issues may include, but is not limited to, meeting with staff, requesting further information, I think we need to refer to the email that Mike has got from staff requesting information or additional information, requesting additional information dash related to related to the response from staff given to Councillor Davidson. My iPad's a bit low too. Sorry, Rob's my IT expert today. The board is extremely urgently addressing these issues made. Yeah, I mean, is that enough? Does that get across that we want this sorted quickly?
I just add one thing. I'm just gonna. In my view, that everything is a safety issue, and it's been caused by speed, driver behaviour, design. And so I'm just wondering if it should be undertakes to urgently address safety issues, and then we can get rid of the next safety, because it's about safety is the big key issue here, and it's been caused by the speed, the design, driver behaviour.
Yeah.
Mike, I'm not sure whether that's entirely correct, though. I mean, as I think Simon may have said, or perhaps Dave said, yes, I agree with you that safety is a key issue, but it's also about feeling intimidated. It's about feeling stressed, and all of those things come from the driver behaviour and the speed and so forth. And so I think safety is actually one of the issues, but it's not, the issues that have been raised are not entirely about safety. I think it's
you've got that later when you say may include but not limited to. So I think this reads really well, and I like the fact that it's quite a long resolution, because we've covered everything and we've doubled up sometimes, and I think that's great.
Okay, I actually don't like the word safety in there, because I don't think this is only about safety. That's the point that I'm raising. I think it's also about
the fact that safety is what picks up their ears, because that's the number one in the MPS.
Okay.
In the government policy.
Yeah, no. If the board, is in a majority with that, that's fine. I've always said, though, that this is more about safety, more than safety. This is about, I know you guys don't like this, but the enjoyment of driving, the lack of intimidation, the flow of traffic, those are all issues that are related to the design of the CNC and these things that Dave's raising. Sure, safety is absolutely key and right up there, but there are other issues. But look, it's a majority decision, I think.
Ali, I think by saying safety, it's not that we're ruling out addressing those other issues.
No, that's right.
Safety has to be the key one, and it is the one which will get attention.
Okay, all right, no, fair enough. Fair enough.
Sorry, Dave, I can see you've got your hand up, but unfortunately you can't contribute to this discussion. Sorry.
Maybe it should have in there that it needs to go both north and south directions on the extension. So talking about both directions.
I think that's implicit. I don't think we need to say that. If we're talking about the road, full stop, then
It says
implicitly we're talking
immediately.
about both directions.
Or
But it
what if
says-
we change point to points?
Oh yeah,
Well, that's
actually, yeah,
right.
merging point. Yeah, there's more than one merging point. That is a good
Yeah.
point.
That covers it.
On and off the northern
Because
Well,
it says departing.
Yeah.
Particularly,
actually,
just take out departing. We just need to make it all merging points.
maybe particularly the merging points. Get rid of the
Yeah.
word immediately as well.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, that might be a bit better.
Right. Is everyone happy with that?
Do we need to put a time frame in? We've talked about urgently. I think that, as Emma Twiddell said, there is no reason why we can't get some of this information or can't at least get the thing started this afternoon, I would suggest.
I would suggest that. I would like to see some action.
Time frame's important. Put one in. I think today's a bit ambitious. What about next week? Have a go.
Okay. Say within
Yeah,
the next
yeah.
week.
Yep.
What will I do in the weekend?
Look, can I just add something? It's not to change the resolution because the resolution's quite good. So obviously there's contractual relationships between council.
Sorry, who's not muted? Who's not muted? There's a lot of noise in the background.
There's obviously contractual relationships between council and Waka Kotahi in regards to, when it gets handed over to council. So I'm not 100% sure, what are all the outstanding issues. Obviously some of them was the noise that was coming off because it didn't have the seal, which is pretty much fixed now, in terms of the seal going on, vegetation issues, etc. And one of the harder things for us as a council is the fact that obviously we can't make those changes required on our part, what will become our part of this road, until it's handed over. So there is a point of time where actually it's best for us to get the road so we can actually start creating those actions ourselves instead of having to wait for Waka Kotahi to do things, which in the past they never seem to be that quick to action. So I think that's why it's also important that we find out, when we are going to get the road back, what needs to be done, etc., and actually what's best for us just to take on and fix instead of waiting for a third party to do it.
Mike, can I ask, would it help if something was more formally done through your committee, or is this the best way to do it through the community board?
Look, I think this is the best way, but I think we need to understand what are the contractual obligations that haven't been met yet, so we can actually work out what needs to be done and where it's actually the best place to tackle this, whether it's actually get the road so we can start doing it ourselves, or whether it's to force Waka Kotahi to do it, and then you're sort of trying to fight with a third party. So it's just understanding, I guess, the complexities behind it and what is the best avenue to take to actually fix the issues that we know are happening.
Okay, totally get that. But once we get to the point that we have an understanding about the contractual obligations and the timeframes and costs and issues, can I just raise it here that it might be something that needs to come back to your committee that might have more?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I totally agree. We've got to work out who, I guess, has the greater influence in terms of decision making and that as well, whether that's the community board or going to the committee. And it could be the committee. And I think that's why it's important we actually have, urgently have a conversation with staff to actually get the facts on the table to know what the best course of action is. So I agree, Ali.
So,
Thanks, Mike. And I will raise it in our report to council next month as well.
So can I ask Mike to add a number 3 there then and put that wording that you put in, that we're requesting information on contractual arrangements still to be finalised before any handover, including a timeline for this. Mike, you might want to tidy that wording up. I'm just doing it off my head, but what we need to do is get that process started, and as we we want to accelerate the handover, but we don't want to be handed over a huge debt. So part of that handing over will be some costing arrangements, I guess, you know, some funding.
It's getting the balance right. I don't know if you need to have a resolution to do it. You'd think if we could just actually ask them to give us that information, it'd be quicker than actually going through and having a.
We'll put it in there because then it's recorded. And with regard to whether we do this through the board or the committee, I think let's just do both. You do a multi-pronged attack here, and you've got more chance of getting something happening. So I'd personally like to see that stay in there.
Yeah. And then just put it in time frame.
Yeah.
It does put it a little bit more in the public eye, which I think is a good thing, particularly at the moment with motorway up in Wellington having some issues with handover. I think the wording, the next wording after that word handover for number 3 would be handover. Is it handover of of the parts of the CNC project that are going to be handed over to council, or words to that effect? Because I think the entirety of the CNC won't be handed over. I think north of QE2 Drive, it stays with NZTA.
You put the sections.
NAE.
Yeah, I think it's not just the NAE, because it would also be Cranford Street south of the, that'd be the Cranford Street upgrade, I guess.
And then back to council. Yeah.
And then we want and timelines.
And timelines related to that handover.
Yeah.
Contractual arrangements and timelines, or contractual arrangements still to be finalised and timelines?
Yeah, put timelines after council.
Yeah, put a comma after council, and so it's an Oxford comma, and timelines related to that handover.
Great, that'll do.
Well, including timelines.
I appreciate the Oxford comma, Ellie.
Thanks. It's very important. It can change the sense of something, Simon, as you know.
Right, is everyone happy with that?
I'm happy.
Yep.
Do we have a mover and a seconder?
I'll move.
I'll second that. So Ali moved it, I seconded it. And we'll put that. Is there any debate? No, we'll put that motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
That's carried. Item 8, change of classification of reserve and grant of easements in Flakes Road, Spring Grove. Do we have staff here for this one?
Hello, can you all hear me?
Yes, we can. Welcome.
Thank you. You have before you a report that seeks to ensure that council land holdings are consistent with the East Belfast Outline Development Plan, and that will enable the developer to smoothly develop the area and provide easements as anticipated in that plan.
Great, thank you, Stuart. This seems like a very straightforward decision. It's one that we're bound to make, really, with what is being approved. Ellie, you've got a question?
Yeah, I do. And is this the right? I flicked an email through to Emma, so I just want to make sure this is the right place to do this. I'm trying to find the email I sent you now. It was really interesting reading in this that because of the delegations given to the community board by the city council, we are obliged to consider this, and yet it is a prerequisite of the consent agreement that these easements be enabled, if you like. So my first thought was, Stuart, that this is a waste of everyone's time, to be frank, when it really is something that we are obliged to sign off and agree to. So we've got I don't know, how many pages is it? 10, 12 pages it's been written. We've got your time here as well. We're considering it. And yet it's sort of pretty much a done deal. So what I wanted to know is, does the board, or should the board, do you think, be taking this up with the city council to look at changing the delegations so where they are a done deal, if you like, there is no need and should be no need for a community board to consider them? Would this make your job a lot easier, Stuart?
Absolutely, Ellie, and thank you. You're on to it. This is exactly what we'd want to happen. And in fact, we have had a discussion with Bruce Rendell, head of facilities, property and planning, and he has commented, I need to do work on getting a delegation for this. So we have thought about it, and yes, we do want that. We do want a staff delegation where easements are a regulatory requirement.
Staff, Emma, what can we do here? Do we have to put a resolution in, or can we
add a resolution saying that we would like to see a delegation for staff to consider matters like this without having to come to the community board?
It's Angus Smith here. I don't know how to put my hand up, but could I add to those comments? Is that okay?
Yes, go ahead, Angus.
Yeah, look, Ellie, you're right onto it, and I also want to point out that part of the resolution in front of you is authorising us to go and make these decisions on this particular subdivision into the future. It's a 10-stage subdivision. We're likely to come across similar requests that are already consented on this subdivision. We've had problems with a subdivision at Cashmere Heights where we're not seen to be acting in a timely manner for the developer. And they're coming to us on these big subdivisions asking for such consents, and we're saying, well, that's a 2-month process by the time we write a report, get it onto an agenda and get a decision. So on this particular one, we have a set of resolutions that enable us to be more agile and more commercial and more supportive of the development, given it's already consented. But if the board want to support Bruce's actions to get further delegations and prioritise that, that would be super helpful. We'd be really appreciative of that.
Thanks, Angus. Pauline, you've got a question?
Oh, no, mine was on something different, but I totally support that added resolution. Emma, I was just going to point out 5.3 has got a spelling mistake for Capitone, even though you've corrected it later in the report, but it might be quite good to put the proper name in there, Capitone. Cool.
Thanks, Pauline. So can we scroll down there, Mark? Request that staff investigate a delegation to staff to address the efficiency of similar processes with the board's support. Angus, is that sufficient for what you're after?
Yes, no, that'd be really nice. Thank you. Appreciate the support.
Do we? The only thing is, though, we don't need to be more specific. We don't need to draw attention to the actual clause in the report that makes this a bit of a nonsense, just sort of along the lines of request that staff investigate a delegation or a change in delegation, request that staff investigate a change in delegation, enabling staff to be able to
it's a delegation to staff to deal with
I was happy with it how it was. I think we need to maybe take Angus's guidance on this.
Okay, sorry, it didn't make sense to me, because I think the point is that what we're trying to do is change the delegation that currently sits with the community board, and I don't think that's clear in that.
Okay, so why don't you put from a delegation from community board to staff?
That's right, exactly, Pauline.
And then put in brackets as per 5.10.
Yeah, thank you. That's perfect. Yep. Delegation from the board
to staff.
I think we should say a change in delegation. I'm sorry to be pedantic. Investigate a change in delegation from the board to staff, and then quote the clause that you said there, because that will explain it perfectly. Now I'll shut up.
Okay. 5.1. I know.
5.10 of the report.
5.10
with reference to 5.10. Section 5.10, maybe, I don't know.
No, stop it. Page 20.
And sorry to be a pain, I said I'd shut up, but can we put a full stop after processes and say this change is supported by the board? Or just with the board support's kind of not relevant with the way we've changed it now.
Wouldn't the fact that we're actually moving and carrying this resolution show that it's got the board support?
We wouldn't be resolving to do it if we didn't support it. It's kind of a given if we come up with this resolution, isn't it?
Yeah, don't
Yeah.
we reiterate it though? Don't we need to make it really strong that the board entirely supports this change?
I think that sentence is redundant.
Yeah, I think it is too.
Okay, all right.
And I assume they're looking at all delegations in this space where it's just totally waste of time coming to the board because they're straightforward things, not just this type
Bring
of
it up at the next Chairs Forum too and get a united view.
That's exactly what I was going to say, is this is part of a much bigger issue that I think community boards can spearhead in looking at what we are looking at in delegations, and we don't need to.
Yeah. Well, it's also what delegation should community boards have from council, and then what delegation should staff have from community boards to get the balance right where decision making should lie.
Great, thanks guys. Do we have a mover and a seconder for those? Riley's moved it.
Thank you.
Mike seconded. Put that motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
That's carried.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Angus and Stuart. That takes us to item 9, slow speed neighbourhoods. Shirley, I believe we have Gemma here. Welcome, Gemma.
Hello, how are you? I would like to introduce Charlotte French and Hannah Valentine, who will just do a quick presentation on the slow speed neighbourhoods.
Thank you, Gemma. Can you guys hear me? Hello?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. Okay, awesome. Great. Cool. We'll just pop straight to that second slide. I think I've spoken to this group before on slow speeds, but I'll just do a quick recap as to the why. This is all around working towards creating a safer space for our communities, and speed management is one of the many tools that we're doing to align with the Road to Zero program to achieve this. And safe and appropriate speeds in neighbourhoods is really about creating a space where pedestrians can feel safe in their streets. It improves that connectivity, it reduces traffic noise, et cetera, and we've identified Shirley as being quite a good one to start with in our top 5 areas where we have known community interest in reducing speed in Shirley. It also ties in really nicely to the slow speeds that have happened in the area already, and it was a nice, easy, logical place for us to reduce their speed. So if you just pop to the map quickly, I'll just identify what was consulted on. So this was the area that was consulted on, and I did hear the public forum and the mention of why Shirley Road was not included. So I just would like to touch on that briefly to answer those queries. The primary reason why Shirley Road wasn't included was because at the moment the long-term plan doesn't have funding for essentially the large amount of traffic calming that we would need to be able to achieve the 40k speed limit at this time. So this here is very much trying to get those easy wins where people are already travelling the road at this speed and where we can do this quickly and easily. This does not mean that Shirley Road is not going to receive these treatments potentially in the future. And just to address that question around Ali, this is just an acknowledgement of the consultation. The consultation happened earlier, so this is the next stage. So a bit more than asking for permission to go to consultation. So that's kind of the reason why Shirley Road hasn't been addressed, but we are very much aware of the safety concerns on Shirley Road, particularly around palms. So just to provide some confidence there that even though this extent does not capture it right now, it does not mean that it is coming later. Quick summary on what we consulted on. So it was 40Ks. We have signs at all the entrances, which will be signs and some red paint on the ground just to reinforce. We also have some repeater signs on some of those more main streets through, so the likes of Emmett Street and potentially Quinns Road, I think also got some repeater signs as well, just to help reinforce that. I will pass over to Hannah to talk about the consultation feedback that was received, and then we can go to questions.
Cool, so if we pop to the next slide. So consultation ran from the 5th of November to the 5th of December last year. We did the kind of usual tactics of letterbox, flyer, newsline story, social media, on-site signage, and the Have Your Say online form. We received 53 submissions as part of this consultation. 41% clearly supported it, 38% clearly opposed, and 21% showed no clear indication either way. key themes that we heard as part of the feedback was the want to have some additional traffic calming measures. So that's currently outside of the scope of the project, as these roads were identified as being able to benefit from signage and paint alone. Charlotte will be able to expand on that if you have any questions to do with that. And the need for legal reinforcement. So as part of this process, we do legally have to notify police. But of course, we have no say in how they use their resources. So, and then there was requests for road repairs, which we have passed on to the necessary maintenance teams. That's all for the presentation. Does anyone have any questions to do with this consultation?
Simon, you've got your hand up.
Thank you. If we could go back to slide 3, just a quick question, possibly for Charlotte or for staff. Back on Shirley Road at the bottom left of that map, we've got Shirley Primary School.
Yes.
Could you just remind us, please, what's happening around speed limits outside schools and how
Absolutely.
that might impact the road?
Of course. So the school program is hindered slightly by the current legislation that currently does not allow us to put 30-kilometre speed limits outside schools easily. And 30 kilometres is absolutely the end state that we believe should be outside schools. And 40 k's is just not good enough. And so at the moment, there is development in the works to do a citywide schools program, which is prioritising which schools will require 30 k's, whether that be a permanent limit or a variable speed limit, or it may be even, and for rural schools, for example. However, because we do not have the ability to actually legally implement these at this time, and we won't until the new speed rule comes into place, we're just focusing on getting the program right. And then at the time when this new law comes into place, we will be hitting the ground running. So we're just trying to be a bit more proactive, but at this time, that is the reason why we haven't been able to include it in these consultations.
Thank you.
That's all right, Simon.
So when is that new rule? Sorry, Emma, when is that new rule?
That's a great question, Pauline.
Oh, sorry,
No, you're fine. It is very much on its way. We have been told by Whakatahi. The do not hold me to this, but the latest date we have been given is June, but that has not been confirmed formally in any way, shape or form. That is just through various rumblings internally at Whakatahi. But I am aware that the Ministry of Transport is pushing for this very, very hard. So that's all the information I have on that. Sorry.
Thanks.
Mike.
So I was just going to add, that's part of the Accessible Streets package, isn't it?
I don't think it's directly related. Correct me if I'm wrong, Gemma, but it does all intertwine. So we are liaising very closely with other programs within the council to make sure that what we align with our program aligns as best as we can with those other programs as well.
Thanks.
Emma, you've got a question? We can't hear you. Emma, are you there? No, okay, we'll come back to you, Ali.
Just a question. The CRAF funding, which I know we're talking about today as well, is there no way that the traffic calming for Shirley Road could have been a part of that negotiation? I'm just wondering, it would have probably made this a complete project then, and it is a safety issue and it's not BAU.
Absolutely. So I don't have full information on the CRAF and their scope, but I have been in discussions with the CRAF team to identify if there was some alignment of programs. Unfortunately for this project, it just didn't quite align, but those discussions were held. And we felt that we had a target of 5 speed program changes in this financial year. So and Shirley really stacked. I think this was the highest priority out of all neighbourhoods in the city, based on the assessment that we undertook. So it was a bit of a no-brainer to just kind of get it done, and then the CRAF would potentially look at Shirley Road, but I can't speak to the CRAF scope. Unfortunately, I do not have the information on hand. But I completely agree that alignment.
When you say it didn't align, do you mean time frame wise?
Yes, time frames. Timeframes, absolutely timeframes. Yeah,
Can
I believe.
Request,
yeah.
Sorry, no, Charlotte, you go.
No, I'm done. You're good.
I was just going to say, can I request some information from staff around that alignment and why this wasn't considered as part of that, and what the lack of alignment was? Could it have been? Because it seems to me if you're going to do a job, do it properly, and it sounds like traffic calming down Shirley Road to help support the other work that's being done seems like a no-brainer, and I'd be really keen to know why it was not a part of the CRAF, which is an issue I've raised before.
I think we could probably ask that question of the CRAF item when we come to the CRAF item.
Okay. All right.
Is it fairly academic though, Ellie, because they're both going to be done at the same time, or this might be done quicker anyway?
Well, no, the traffic calming isn't being done at all along Shirley Road because there's no budget, and yet CRAF offered some budget. So I'm just trying to work out why that wouldn't have been a part of that negotiation. But as Emma said, we can raise it with the CRAF team.
Yeah, it's also to do with the boundaries, I think, Ellie, as well.
What, geographical boundaries?
Yeah, it was the area for Richmond, and it was bounded by Shirley Road, Hills Road, North Parade, and North Avon.
So I guess you're talking about pavement bounding, because Shirley Road is obviously Shirley Road, but is it one side of Shirley Road, and that was the issue?
It's the streets within it, yeah. So we wouldn't.
We'll ask the question of the CRAF team.
Okay, thanks.
Emma, did you have a question? No, something's happened with your microphone or something, and you are not coming through. I do have a question. This neighbourhood to me seems quite different to some of the other ones that we're doing. When we had the presentation on the Papanui slow speed neighbourhood, you talked about the environment being so that cars were driving that slower speed anyway. Whereas this to me seems very different with much wider streets and longer, straighter streets.
That's a great question. So when we did the assessment, we take into account a number of factors, not that is one of them, the infrastructure environment, but also safety risk and also community feedback. And we were aware that Shirley had a number of community requests for speed reviews through customer complaints, and also through the boards and various other sources, and that came through really strongly. The other area is the safety. The crash risk through here is showing up to be a little bit higher than some of those areas, and in that environment, in those situations, we have to weight them appropriately, in the sense that, do we have an opportunity here to potentially reduce the crash risk? And this is very much where monitoring will come into play. If we can't get to those speeds lower in certain streets than 40, then we will definitely come back and revisit, and potentially on some of those longer stretches. And it's a really interesting psychological discussion around speed that isn't just black and white. And where we can, we definitely look to aim for those streets to have those already built up environments, but in some places it's just such a grey area. So rather than have to leave Shirley as it is and leave that existing crash risk, we're taking the opportunity to put those 40s in, monitor it, and at the moment, the operating speeds for the entire area are actually showing that on average people do drive less than 40. So, and that also lended to the reasoning why we felt it was a good case. But it's really to do with that balance of safety, whereas in Papanui, the safety risk wasn't as high. So we have to really think about, is this the right thing for this street? It's just those tensions between those elements. So I hope that answered that question there, Emma.
Thank you.
That's right.
Oh, sorry, Emma, I just tried to put my hand up. Can I ask a question? Yeah. Oh, there it is. Yeah, so part of the consultation response was, I mean, it was quite close for the for and against, but a lot of the against, a few of them said that there's no point because people won't comply with it. And to me, that's no reason not to do this. But my question is that there's a mention of the intersection of Imatakaroa and Briggs Road. And I don't know, this is probably out of scope for your comment, I don't know, but that is becoming an intersection of concern. And I think there may have been an accident there yesterday. And and requesting the possibility of lights there. Did you consider that, or what do you do with comments like that come up in a submission?
I can comment on the scope element. That is unfortunately out of the scope of this project. Hannah, do you have any potential updates on where this comment went to? Apologies for throwing you under the bus, Hannah. I'm just not 100%
No,
sure.
you're fine. On this specific comment, I'm not entirely sure, but in terms of consultations in general, when they're outside of scope, we do pass them on to the appropriate team and they do get considered by staff and responded to. So I will follow up on it. But yeah, outside of scope for this project, but it will, if they haven't heard back from us in relation to where their idea is, they will do so very soon.
Yeah, I just think it's quite good if we pick up things in a consultation to pass them through to the transport team.
Absolutely.
Throw it in the mix. Thank you.
Yeah, and now that's on our radar as well, Pauline, as a board, we can push for improvements to that intersection. Anything else? I would like to add something to the resolutions. Just following up on what Charlotte was just saying about the monitoring and having other things calming or whatever added if required after if it shows, if monitoring shows it's needed. So can we maybe just add board notes that speeds will be monitored, and there is the possibility that traffic calming could be looked at if required.
I will add, Emma, that is a legal requirement when we put we get the speed limits through the regulator from Waka Kotahi. We have to demonstrate that speeds are being met, and if they're not, we are legally entitled to improve that environment. So no, I personally I don't know the processes, sorry, but I don't think there's any negatives of including this, but just acknowledging that we are.
But I think that using the word possibility is probably not the right thing to put if there is a legal requirement to do it, should there be a problem with speeds. Can we just be aware of that?
Possibility, could be deleted.
Yeah.
So that traffic
as well as the preceding words.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just end that traffic calming could be looked at if required. I just want to, because that was a major thing that came up through the consultation. I want it to be. I want us to put it out there that we're not writing off traffic calming as well. That this is just a first step.
Yeah. I think if you recall from our Papanui discussion, the end result of this program is very much to have a network where there is a safe speed neighbourhoods, and the infrastructure on the road will reflect that, whatever that may be. So we're very much in the mindset that if traffic calming is needed, then we will look to get that in place in whatever form that may be. And in those places where we don't need it because we can satisfy those speed limits, then that's fantastic as well. But just to reassure the board that we're very much in the mindset that the end result will be what I think everyone is hoping for.
Mike? I'm
not really a fan of the words could be looked at, and it should be, maybe will be considered. I'm not too sure, but yeah.
Yep, I'm happy for you.
Yeah, I think you put that. Yeah, would be considered or will be considered if required. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So no more questions. Do we have a mover and a seconder for that? I'm happy to move it.
I'm happy to second. Oh, sorry, Pauline, you go.
Pauline,
oh,
you got
it doesn't matter.
Yep.
So is there any debate on this?
Yep.
Simon?
Thank you. Yeah, just briefly, I'm supportive of this proposal. What we see is traffic speed data indicating that most users, as has been mentioned, are already travelling below the posted speed limit, which tells us that the current limit isn't appropriate, and we understand it's not safe as well. The background behind me is from the council's website. It's the risk increase, shows the increasing risk to pedestrians and cyclists and other road users as speeds increase, and even going 50 to 40 and of course 40 to 30 makes a massive difference in outcomes for the more vulnerable road users. So yeah, very happy to support today. Kia ora.
Awesome. Thanks, Simon. Ellie, is that hand up?
Yeah, it is. Sorry, I don't. Just really quickly. Yeah, I'm supportive of this as well. But clearly, the City Council can put in signs, but the only way we can ensure or communicate to people how important it is to see the enforcement. And I do note in the presentation that we don't have control over that. I've raised this again and again, but these signs are not going to do anything unless there is some enforcement to support them in place as well.
Thanks, Ellie. Pauline?
Yeah, thank you. Look, I support this because actually it's a beautiful area in there. It's really coming into its own, and with all the work that the Shirley Trust is doing in there to make this a much more amenable neighbourhood to live in, slowing the cars down and allowing people to actually see the benefit of what's happening in there, particularly if they get their urban forest work going along through the park there, will just be wonderful. So I'm really supportive of this, and yes, you can't not support this because you think people won't do it. I think social pressure will start to begin to come to the fore and encourage people to do that. The thing too, when you reduce speed, it's not just about safety, but you reduce that noise as well. And I think as a city, we're starting to realise that you don't have to be tearing around like a mad idiot all the time. You can take the time to enjoy the journey. So I'll be interested to see how this goes. I'll be supporting it today. Thank you.
Thanks, Pauline. Mike?
Thank you. I'll also be supporting this. I think this is a really good initiative, and it's good to see this rolling out across the cities where we're actually making communities more livable by reducing speeds. We know what the data and evidence shows us, and signs alone do actually reduce speeds. The evidence points to that, and so I hope we don't have to go down to the track, down the path of needing enforcement, but obviously it will be monitored, and then work out what, if the speeds don't reduce, what would need to happen to actually make that happen, whether it's through traffic calming or enforcement. But I think this is a really good decision that we're making today. Thanks.
Mike? I will be supporting it as well for all of the reasons that you guys have already said. Anything we can do to make our streets safer in our communities, we need to do. And yeah, that's all I've got to say because it's already been said. Emma?
So hopefully, am I back now? Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes, of course, I support this. It's good to see that it actually came to fruition, as it surely wasn't on the cards at start when you first came to talk to us. So it's great that it is, and the work's being done. And of course, I just want to reiterate that I'm looking forward to seeing it go further and get onto some of those main roads and that are outside our childcare and education and business facilities. Thanks.
Thanks, Emma. So we'll put that motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Aye.
That is carried.
Aye.
That takes us to item 10, confirmation of the Richmond Craft Programme. So I see we've got Kelly here. I'll hand over to you, Kelly.
Morning, everyone. Look, I had a brief intro, but I think now it's probably more timely to address the two matters that have just been discussed. So firstly, Jennifer's concerns that she had. I don't actually think Jennifer is currently online anymore, is she, by the looks of it? No. Okay. So yes, Jennifer is correct. As we did say in the report, we did consult with the community. It was in February and March of last year. However, it wasn't on specific projects. It was just saying we have this budget to be spent in this area on these types of projects. You tell us as locals what are the areas that you want us to look at. So we weren't specifically asking about, do you want this piece of work or this piece of work? It was, you tell us everything, and then we will take all that back to the board to come up with a program. We will consult with the community on each project that is agreed in the program. the decision today is just on the program for then further investigation. So what that means is once a program is decided, we will still scheme each project. We will then take it to the public for their feedback and consultation. And then we will come to the board for approval if that is required for that particular project. So if the board have the delegated authority to make a decision on something. Sorry, my phone is just ringing. I'll just put my do not disturb on. Sorry about that. So people will still be able to give their feedback on the individual projects, how it affects them, parking loss, landscaping. The community will still have that opportunity. Jennifer also talked about Julius Terrace, so I can see where the confusion with this has come. And the initial information that we sent back to the board, an intersection upgrade at Julius Terrace was included in the full list of projects, and it is included in the set of plans that is in the report as an attachment. But it came with the recommendation from staff that we did not think that that was required for the reasons that Jennifer mentioned. And so it isn't, Julius Terrace is not included in the list of projects for approval, which is on page 51 of the agenda. She also mentioned that there was a greater need for a speed hump on Chancellor Street, and we are including a speed hump on Chancellor Street at the Warden Street intersection. So I'm not sure how, I don't know who Jennifer is, I haven't met her, so I'm not sure how I can, how we can go about getting that information back to her if she's not currently online. What would you propose for that, Matthew?
Sorry, had buttons to click. Jennifer may well be watching, so I had a chat with her beforehand.
Okay.
We removed her to the waiting room, and then she's obviously not here, but she may well be watching on YouTube, so she may have heard it. We've got her contact details, so we'll send her an email. This is live on YouTube, and we'll be on the board's YouTube channel and on the board's Facebook page, so we can send her the relevant part for that. Lovely.
Okay, and I guess if she's got any more questions or want any more clarification, you can facilitate that with us. Perfect. And so then Charlotte and Hannah and Gemma have just discussed the speed restriction that's being proposed outside of the CRAF area. So Councillor Davidson is correct. The CRAF area is bordered by Shirley Road, North Parade, North Avon Road and Hills Road. We hadn't previously proposed any work on those bordering roads. However, I don't see why they couldn't be included. However, the discussion was had about why we weren't including any speed restrictions on Shirley Road. We just had a quick check. There was one submission in the consultation that we did with the community at the start of last year, requesting a school speed zone on at Shirley School, which is within the CRAF area of Shirley Road. And we did discuss that with the board at one of our briefings, and the decision was made to wait until the Wakakatahi ruling on whether school speed zones were going to become mandatory at all schools. So that particular request for a school speed zone at the school, I know that doesn't address the full length of along Shirley Road. That was discussed with the board, but it was discounted for that reason. We didn't have any other requests for speed reduction on Shirley Road, and it certainly wasn't something that was brought up by the board or discussed with the board, and so that's why it hasn't been, advanced in this discussion.
Can I ask a question to that, Kelly?
Sure.
I appreciate that decisions are made on what is known at the time. We now know things right. So shouldn't we be nimble and reactive and proactive as well when we now see a project? And how long has that project been in the making? Does this suggest, and I don't want to go back and point fingers, it's still to be achieved by it, but is this siloing again, and that we've got something that's being done in council and the CRAF stuff's being done as well? And had we known that this was in the works, then the board would have known about it and it could have been a part of this. Where's the flexibility here, and are we too far down the track? Because to me, it just sounds as though here we have a project that could benefit and use government money for something that we're now going to have to find money for, and this is exactly what I believe we should have been looking at when negotiating with the CRAF.
Sure, look, it's not too late. The decision obviously hasn't been made. That's what we were here with you today, to try and get a decision on the overall program. Look, if the board would like us to go and do a bit of investigation about what allowing for a slower speed on Shirley Road would look like, we can go and do that. That's no problem. I guess it's just obviously making the board aware that that comes at the expense of another project to bring something in. You know, there's a finite amount of dollars for the CREF funding. So to bring something in, then something else has to come out. And also just that, like I said before, the CREF area is only it only addresses Shirley Road from Hills Road to North Parade. So I know that Charlotte spoke about kind of down further by the Palms. We wouldn't be able to extend the CREF area to include that. Look, Charlotte mentioned we have been working quite closely with Charlotte on the coordination between these two and making sure that we weren't overlapping. And Charlotte has obviously said previously that it's still recognised as a priority, that the Shirley Road speed is still sitting there, but just hasn't been included in her work. Look, if the board would like us to go away and do a bit more work on that, that's no problem. We can do that. We can leave this report sitting here on the table without our decision. I guess it's just also making the board aware that then holds up kind of the confirmation of the rest of the CREF program, and therefore advancing on getting any of that work underway.
Thank you, Kelly. Emma, can I go back to you and perhaps Matt as well? Because in light of what we've been presented today around this Shirley Road slow speed and there not being funding for it, knowing this now, I won't be supporting this entire section today unless we resolve to look at including it in the project going forward. I mean, I don't like slowing things down, but I actually like doing things properly. And it's quite clear that I believe had we known about this, then we would have considered it as part of the CREF funding. We don't have the funding. The CREF has the money there. It's needed in this area to work with what's being proposed in the slow streets. And I think we should be doing it. What can we do? And look, there may not be board support for it. I'm seeing in some of the chat that quite clearly some of you are very against that. So maybe we just put it to a vote.
Well, can we finish the questions first?
Yeah, let's finish.
Oh, sorry,
Kelly first.
Okay. Yep.
And I'd be quite happy to move this as well.
Okay, Pauline, you go ahead with your question.
Yeah, thank you. Just on there, and I don't know if you have got the answer, but if the Waka Kotahi bring in the slow school speeds to 30k, does that come with any funding for councils to implement?
I'm not the right person to answer that. I'm not sure if Charlotte's still online. No. Looks like
Maybe
Billy,
we can get
Billy, are you still there? Sorry, I did have Bill Homewood as well, our technical person, but he did have an 11 o'clock meeting that he had to go to as well.
I'm still here for now.
Thanks, Billy.
Yeah.
Do you know the answer to that, Billy?
No idea, no. I'd be surprised if they're going to give you money to do it, but
yeah,
they might. You never know.
Yeah. Okay, and
I guess sorry, just about that. I guess it's for Waka Kotahi or for any organisation to allow funding. That is a huge program if they were to make that decision. You know, to legislate a speed restriction outside all schools. So I without knowing 100%, I assume that Billy is correct in his interpretation.
But bearing in mind we have put the signalised crossing in there now for Shirley Primary, that seems to be working quite well. Mm-hmm. The other question that, or the issue that Jennifer raised was about the cycle. It's not a cycle way. And she was concerned that there was going to be a lot of parking loss. Mm-hmm. But is that correct? I didn't see
so
that.
It's not a. Pauline, you'll be involved in a lot of the MCR discussions. It's not an MCR. It doesn't have that level of facility, not at all. Actually, Billy, you're probably a better person to answer this one.
Yeah, this isn't going to result in much parking loss at all. There's a few intersection treatments. You might end up putting a couple of speed humps in every now and then, but mostly it's just a bit of paint on the road.
Yes, just to make it
parking loss. Yeah,
just to make it safer for cyclists. So I think possibly Jennifer thought it might have been an MCR with the full works, but it's not, and there's not a great deal of parking loss.
No.
Great,
it's certainly not a wholesale, whole block by block where we have a one-way separated cycleway or a two-way separated cycleway. It's not that level of facility.
Yeah, thanks.
Simon.
Thank you. 2 questions on the Greenway Cycleway. Firstly, just from the plans, can I just confirm that along that Greenway route there'll be a mix of speed limits? Looks like it's got proposed 30, 40 and remaining at 50. Is that correct? And sort of what's the thinking around the speed limits for that?
That is correct. I didn't design it, so I'm not sure I'm able to explain that one to you. I believe some of it was looking at, from some discussions I was involved in, it was looking at consistency and not wanting to make people go 50, 30, 40, 50, 30 and keep changing. But I didn't actually undertake that design work, so I can't say definitely why that decision was made.
Sure thing. And just, I guess, a follow-up one. I think it's been mentioned already, but that aspect of this program, would there be another round of consultation on this, more specific to the design or implementation of that cycleway, so that community can feed into perhaps how it could be optimised?
Yes, there would. So after this process, once a program is approved, then we would still go, each project will go through the normal process. So we would scheme it up, we'd then take it out to the community and say, hey, what do you guys think? So there is still that opportunity for everyone to have a say on any of the work that we would be proposing in this program. This today, or whenever we get a decision on the program, is just deciding on the projects that then go to further investigation.
Thank you.
Just around that speed limit, the varying speed limits along that cycleway, Simon, we can get some more information to you about that.
Okay, thank you.
Right, are there any further questions for Kelly?
I've got one for Kelly. So, Kelly, if the board was to want to see Shirley Road looked at, and you said funding would have to come from some of the other projects, in your view, are there any projects on the list at the moment that are not, can be put back? What
That's
would
a very
you put
unfair
back?
question to ask me, Emma.
Well, I just sort of, my
I know what you're
point
saying.
is those roads are small, there's less people using them.
Yep.
The safety issues are not as big as Shirley. Shouldn't we, be looking at safety of all first, and what would the neighbourhood, what do you think the neighbourhood might accept in exchange for improving the safety on Shirley Road outside the park and school?
Yeah, I mean, I guess going back a step, not trying to dodge answering the question, but going back a step, I guess initially we would have to do, we'd have to look at what this improvement in safety and reduction in speed on Shirley Road would look like. Would it just be 1 or 2 speed humps, or would it be speed humps with some narrowings, or would it be speed humps with some narrowings with some landscaping for some more visual narrowing? So it's very hard to kind of say, well, I guess initially how much that would likely cost, and therefore what else would need to drop out of that program. But as staff, we've tried to be really, quite impartial when we have discussed with all the boards, not just yourselves, but with all the boards about the work to be done in the CREF program. We've really tried to let the boards make that decision on what was a priority for them. So for me to say that I think that one is more important than another, I haven't, even though we've facilitated that, we've really tried not to influence the outcome of the program. So I guess it would need to be a board decision. Look, I completely agree. Shirley Road is a busier road. It will hold a higher, there'll be higher traffic volumes. Then there's other local roads. But I'm sure that, the people on these local roads that live on these local roads as well, which have advocated for a lot of this, they have been advocating for some of this work, for a long time. They would say that there's still a need, they would say that the work on their streets is more important. So it's just balancing. I'm sorry, I know I'm not answering your question. It's just it's a matter of perception, I guess, about what's more important.
Yeah, I was talking more in respect to the state of the infrastructure more than.
Okay. Right. Okay. Well, look, certainly the intersection upgrades. So there's the 5 intersection upgrades which have been proposed in the CREF program. They are all to reduce. It's interesting because a lot of the work that's actually in the CREF program is with has the intention of reducing speed anyway.
I love the
local area.
program. I actually don't,
Yeah. So I guess you could kind of say that the only real infrastructure upgrade that we are proposing in the program is the rebuild of Slater Street from Warden Street to Shirley Road, and that new piece of curb and channel where there's no delineation between the footpath and the road on Slater Street. Everything else is kind of a reduction in safety, reduction in speed to adhere to, to make it safer. So it's similar type of work. Yeah.
Okay.
Does that help? Probably not.
Yeah, no, it does. Yeah, thanks. Yeah.
So I've moved this, Emma.
Okay, so Pauline has moved it. Do we have a seconder?
Sorry, what did you move?
Pauline's moved the staff recommendation.
I'm happy to second. I am just wondering about an amendment, though, if we've already moved it, to request some information or some action or something to look at Shirley Road in that area.
And Simon, just to clarify, would that be for the inclusion of
no
in the craft? Yeah. Okay. So
no.
Aside from that, got you.
Yes, just to get something started,
sure,
effectively separately to this program of work.
So yeah, we can certainly work with Gemma and Charlotte so we can get some information to you about where that's currently sitting, or what could potentially happen in the future.
Pauline, as mover, are you happy with that? Be added.
As long as it doesn't get convoluted. Where is it? I'll just wait.
It's about to appear.
Emma, can I suggest an amendment, or
you can foreshadow one?
Yeah.
If it fails.
Yeah.
Sorry, can you give me some wording, Simon? Thanks.
For those who are concerned about Shirley Road in this area, is it about safety? Is it about condition? I'm happy for someone else to suggest some language here that we might ask.
Shirley Road's in good condition. I think what we need to start with is data, crash data, and information and safety data on Shirley Road.
Information on safety.
It's actually also about building a community there. It's about building a village. You build your communities around your hubs, and that's a real hub of it's a commercial area. It's got school. It's got public land. And it should be an area that entices people to walk around and be in, and that's why the roads need to be closed down.
Emma, we're just trying to formulate this wording at the moment.
Is that what you want, Simon? Is
it? On Shirley Road, we should say between
Hills Road
and North Parade. I'd be happy with that. It gets us started.
Yes, traffic safety, isn't it? Traffic safety, yeah.
I think it's about amenity as well, but anyway, we can get to debate in a minute.
You may want to put traffic safety and livability.
And livability? Just around the connectivity thing?
Yeah.
Cool. I'm happy with that. Thanks.
So Ellie, you want to foreshadow an amendment?
Yeah, my amendment is basic. Yeah, my amendment is that the board lays these projects on the table until additional information with regards to Shirley Road is obtained to support the current plan for slow streets, as no funding is available for the Shirley Road traffic calming / slowing of traffic.
Just give Mark a minute to keep that down.
Sorry, Ellie, can you help me?
Oh, sorry, that the board lays the report on the table and requests urgent information related to costs. I'm putting related in again, but we'll need to change it. Related to costs regarding the slowing of Shirley Road between Hills and North Parade in line with the slow speed streets plans for Shirley.
Sorry, I have a process question.
Oh, me too. You go first.
Can we approve some of it?
That's a good question.
Like I said, sorry. Like I said,
the board can, the chair can put certain numbers separately, and you can vote against or for. That's all.
What were you going to say, Kelly?
It's been moved in its entirety.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I guess, like I said before, without knowing what any work on Shirley Road or any other project that hasn't been investigated would look like, and therefore the cost, it's hard to know how much you could approve without knowing how much you would potentially need to allow for any new project that came into the program. For example, Shirley Road.
What's the approximate price for a build out?
Sorry, bill it, yes, with a 3 in it. Yep. 100, 150
per
Can
side.
I just raise a process issue too through the chair? That we've done a lot of work on this. There's been opportunities for these questions previously, and I think this is the 11th hour. And to be backpedaling like this, I mean, we've got a note in the resolution there requesting information, and we've got the resolution moved. So, you know, I don't know why we're going into this detail.
Well, the reason we're going into it, and I'm sorry, I think this is probably more debate, but the reason we're going into it is that we have just had a presentation now.
Yeah, Ali, I'm going to cut you off there because that is debate.
Okay, so but I'm responding to
Simon, you had a process question.
To what Pauline said.
I do. My process question is, the text in black there is probably a foreshadowed motion, not an amendment. Just it's only text on the page at the moment, but just for clarity.
Yes, you're correct.
So it's maybe if we just delete that word and it can just sit there for now.
Yeah.
Don't we need to vote on that first? And if that
no,
it's
a foreshadowed motion is only if the substantive fails in the first place, and it will also need a seconder.
It's actually a procedural motion.
Okay, so Ali, do we have a seconder for that motion?
Can we put another process one? Can we put another motion in as well, requesting that?
Emma, you have to wait for this one to be seconded, or not?
Oh, okay. Well,
right. So no seconder for that one. Okay, so that motion fails for lack of a seconder.
So sorry again. I need to understand. Have we got a seconder for the first one?
Yes.
So that's
Pauline moved it, and Simon seconded it.
Okay, right.
Right, Simon, you've got your hand up. Is that from before?
No, I don't. I'm good.
Are we in debate now?
Right. So we have a mover and a seconder. So we are moving on to debate.
Hold on. What about we put another one up, suggesting that we move forward with some of the projects?
We can't do that, Emma, because we don't know what the costs are.
I think we've heard clearly from staff that is not possible.
That's why I put that amendment up, foreshadowed that amendment. Because
I heard 150,000.
Through the chair, can we please keep this meeting moving?
We have gone over time already. Right, as I said, we're going to move to debate on the motion that has been moved and seconded. Ali.
Okay, it's a real shame that I can't support this today. I supported it all the way through up till now, but with the briefing and information we've had today around the slow streets and how important it is to have that part of Shirley Road, part of this jigsaw of the slow speeds around from the presentation we got today around Shirley. I can't be supporting this today. It's just such a real shame that we didn't have this information earlier and that the CRAF didn't consider some of the things that City Council hasn't got funding for that is really, really urgent. Yes, I appreciate that these streets in Shirley are in very bad nick. Some of them, they are well overdue. But actually, they are smaller streets, they are slower traffic. And here we've got an area right by a school. Shirley Road is a key activity centre and will be more so when the land is developed. and we've got funding there to do it. And, you know, this isn't about slowing things down. This is actually about doing things properly. And so I totally reject the suggestion by some members that this is going backwards and that we're moving forward here. If we'd had this information earlier, we would be in a different position now. So that's why I can't support this today.
Thanks, Ellie. Simon.
Thank you. I'd note the CREF funding comes from a 2017 election promise by Labor. We're up to nearly 5 years later now. We have been through an extensive process to get to this point for Richmond. The A of CREF stands for acceleration, and 5 years is a long time without even having a shovel in the ground. So I'm really keen to see us press the accelerator. All the projects that are proposed in the staff recommendation are needed. There's more that are needed as well that we couldn't get on that list. I agree that Shirley Road needs to be looked at, but not at the expense of this proposed program of work. Be really happy to support it as a future separate item though.
Thanks, Simon. Pauline?
Yeah, Mike, maybe you should go first because I'll close.
Is that all right, Emma?
Yes, go ahead, Mike.
Thank you. I'll be supporting the resolutions in front of us. I think Simon touched on a lot of what I'm going to speak to as well, so I'll try and keep to the point. I'd hate for this debate and the conversations we've had to detract from actually a lot of the good work that we've done in this Richmond area. And the opportunity that we got from the CREF, which has taken a long time to get to this point, as Simon mentioned. But we knew from the get-go that it was the boundary area for this. We've worked with the community early on. We identified the areas that were a major concern. We've gone through a long process to actually create a really good outcome that's going to really improve, livability, safety, connections within this community, and I'd hate for us to be focusing on another area instead of what we're actually doing now, which is actually improving a suburb. So I support this. We need to realise that we can't confuse the two projects, what's happening over in Shirley area with the slow speeds and what's happening in the Richmond area with the CREF. I think the addition to the resolutions of Shirley Road being there is actually quite a good thing. So we can actually have a look, get proper data, work out what's happening there, and if something needs to be done, then we can advocate for it. But I don't think we should confuse everything to actually therefore create a poorer outcome for this community. Thanks.
Thanks, Mike. I just want to reiterate a lot of what Mike and Simon have said. I think staff have done an amazing job with this over a number of years now, and we as a board have also had a number of briefings and a lot of information on all this stuff. We've listened to what the submitters have said, those 84 submitters. And I'd just like to note that, as Kelly pointed out, only one of them did mention Shirley Road. I think we've focused on the issues that were brought up by the residents and the submitters in that engagement that was carried out. And I'm also really comfortable with us knowing that there will be further consultation for each individual project as it moves forward. So I'm really happy to support this today. Emma?
I'll support this today as well, due to the fact that I don't want to hold it up any of that wonderful work that is going to be happening there. But it is disappointing that we continually see projects coming through that are actually not solving the problems and not building better communities in Christchurch long term, which works around your hubs. So I just want that noted, that I find it quite unacceptable that we find out information at the last minute once again. And perhaps this again points out the bigger issues of the silos within the councils and their perhaps sometimes looking at easy wins rather than what's necessary for our city of the future.
Thanks, Emma, and we'll finish with Pauline.
Well, look, thank you. Look, if this board has been concerned about Shirley Road, we should have probably brought this up a long time ago as a separate project.
I did, Pauline.
And I think that the fact that it's brought up today and it's noted in the resolution is a good thing. We're preempting so much if we begin discussing Shirley Road without any data. without any data on crash incidents or any problems there. I know at peak time you're lucky if you can do 10 Ks along Shirley Road. So, and I fully support having a look at it, but I don't want to convolate it today. As Simon, Mike, and Emma have already alluded to, this is an acceleration program that's in its 5th year, and it's got a wee way to go yet before it can be delivered. So I'm really, really, really keen to get this cracking and not hold it up any longer. The area that we're talking about has copped a lot of traffic post-earthquake when we had Hills Road closed off, a lot of works on Warden and Shirley Road. So it's carried a lot of traffic that it was not meant to carry. And to have a street in there that's got no footpath road delineation is really poor level of service for that area, and I'm pleased to see that will be fixed. There's a lot of rat running that goes through there, so that'll be addressed through this, which will help the safety issues. And so all these things are actually going to build a better community. So I don't agree with Emma Torrell's comments about better communities being created. We've got to start somewhere. This is a fabulous project, and I'm really, really pleased that the staff have got it this far. I know Mike and I spent, 2 or 3 meetings with NZTA as it was then, and council staff, transport staff from everywhere, trying to get this over the line as one of the projects identified around the city to qualify for this capital acceleration money. And it was hard work, but we finally got there. And to at the 11th hour to be unstitching it and holding it up to bring in another street that has never been part of the scope is, I don't think that's a good move today, even though the intention is good. I appreciate that. So please support this today. I'm asking you, Ellie, particularly, I know that you want to look at Shirley Road, but we've got that in the resolution. So please support this today for the community of Richmond. Cheers.
Thanks, Pauline. So we'll put that motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Aye.
Against?
Against.
Okay, we'll note that, Ellie.
Thank you.
So that is carried. We'll move on now to item 11.
Thank you,
Richmond.
everyone.
Thanks, Kelly, for your work on this.
No problem. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks, Kelly.
Right, Richmond Road renewals. We've got Pana here. Welcome, Pana.
Good morning, all, or is it good afternoon all? How's things? Hey, look, I've got also got my colleagues here, Laurie Gordon and May Wong, sort of supporting as well. So, hey, look, thank you for the opportunity to present the tabled resolution. So, and I take it that you've actually received the memo with regards to the additional information. So hopefully that's all good with the board. So is there any other, it was actually really good to meet you guys all on site after meeting. So hopefully we sort of thrash things out. And I think we received an email as well from Dave Duffy, definitely in support. So he's seen the memo as well, and he's definitely in support of what's going on down there. So
do we have any questions?
Yeah.
No? Do we have a mover?
Hang on, I've got a question.
Oh, okay, go ahead, Pauline.
Don't know where the memo is. I've probably missed it somewhere. However, just a quick question. When we had the site visit on Nicholl Street, the arborists thought they might be able to reassess some of the trees. Has that changed anything, or are we just still with the original recommendation?
That's
Yes,
what
it
was
has.
all in the memo, isn't it?
Yeah.
I haven't seen it.
It has made some minor changes, so we've been able to retain a couple of trees there, Pauline.
Great, thank you very much. That's all I wanted to know.
Right, I'm happy to move it. Do we have a seconder?
Yeah, I'll second it.
Pauline seconded it. We'll put that motion. All those in, is there any debate?
Oh,
No.
just quickly, Emma. Sorry.
Just go ahead, Simon.
Yeah, I just want to thank staff for accommodating us on responsively around the site visit, noting that there's now, I think, only 10 trees out, not 12 on Nicholl Street, and 19 going in, and across 6 streets in the area. Across this work and other work, 26 trees are coming out and 102 are going in. So you're just noting that in the wider area, the council is observing its tree replacement policy. Thank you.
Thanks, Simon. Go ahead, Mike.
Thanks. Yeah, look, I think it just showed the value of actually doing a site visit. having a look firsthand at the trees, having a conversation with the staff. So I'm really glad that we actually laid this paper on the table, this part of it on the table last time for us to actually have a look, go to the site and just see the condition of the trees before a decision was made to replace them.
Thanks, Mike. I'd just like to reiterate the good work that staff have done in this area with replacement trees for all these projects as well. Pauline.
Yeah, look, I agree with what Mike said. I was going to say that as well. Site visit was fantastic. And I do think we need to make sure we've got some good comms around this, because that big tree on the corner of North Avon and Nichols Street, you'd look at that and at first you'd think it looks like a really healthy tree, and it's a beautiful tree. And sadly, that one is going to be taken down. However, we know the rationale behind that. It's got probably less than 5 years left in it. It could be a danger to that building. The dentist on the corner, there's one limb that's not looking too good, and if we take that out, it will unbalance the whole tree. So there's a lot of reasons that we learned about that tree, and a lot of the trees actually in our walk down that street, it was really, really good. I think the new tree that they've put on the North Avon Road side next to that big tree that's got to come down is also going to be a very beautiful tree, and it's already quite big. So I'm really pleased with the fact that the arborist had another kind of a wee look at some of the trees there, and we managed to save another couple. We've done most of the debate on the rest of it last week, so I'll support today, and thanks staff again for that time and for the board for coming out too. Cheers.
Thanks, Pauline. So we'll put that motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
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 That is carried. Thanks, Brenna, and to your team for that one.
All good, and thank you very much, board. And just to let you know, the other streets that you guys approved last year, Crystal, Petrie and Warden Street, have been awarded. So we'll be going into construction for those next month, and with the approval of the board to move ahead with Dudley, Nichols and Stapleton. So we'll look to move on that quite quickly and get that out for tender. So yeah, Richmond's going to be very busy, but I'll definitely keep you guys updated with the memo and in the progress. So thank you very much.
Fantastic. Thank you. Great
Thanks, Anna.
news.
Moving on to item 12, Grimpe and Jocelyn propose no stopping restrictions. I'm
happy to move that.
Yeah, we've got Wayne here, but I think this one's pretty straightforward. Are there any questions? No, Ali's moved it. Do we have a seconder?
Happy to second. Oh.
Cool. So we'll put that motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Aye.
That is carried.
Okay, thanks, Board. Have a good weekend.
Thanks, Wayne. Item 13, Waipapa Papanui-Innes Community Board Area Report.
Morning, Board.
Morning, Trevor.
Take it as read. Any questions?
Ali.
Just wanted to follow up on the starlings. I note that it was raised, and I think something might have been sent to the office of the CE. The chip sealing on the roads just off Westminster Street, I think Jacobs and Gossett. It would be really helpful to have some update on this, and thank you to staff for getting that for me. It sounded like it was a bit like pulling teeth. Apparently roadworks have been affected by COVID, and I just want to make sure that the residents are being informed of this, because there are still no parking cones all the way up both sides of the street. So can I just find out from staff whether changes in work plans and schedules are communicated to residents? And also the surface flooding on Edgware Road. I see in the area report that the request has been passed to staff along with follow-up questions and information supplied. I understand from our staff when I asked about this during the week that there is at the moment, is it a plan for Head of Three Waters? I think it's Tim Drennan to come back with something on that on April 1. Unfortunate date, but let's see how we go. So can we just confirm that and have that noted somewhere, please? It would be great if we could have something earlier. That's 4 weeks to get some information, really. Well, longer than that, really, when you look at this issue's been around for a while. So those are the 3 things I just want to ask about, please.
Can we get a response to that?
So the birds, chip sealing and changes to roading schedules communicated to residents, and the Edgware Road flooding.
we'll definitely follow up around the chip sealing, and
Thank you.
and to find out whether we're informing residents that that has been delayed. So we'll do that. The birds, Emma really helpfully raised it at council, not this time round, last time round. So the chief exec and the mayor said they would progress that. So we're working with the office of the chief exec to work out how that is progressing and what's that looking. Mark's doing a really good job. He's in constant email with OCE to make sure that something's happened there, but we'll keep you up to speed with that as and when we know. I'm not so the briefing for Edgware, I think I'm not sure who it is that's coming, and was it
exactly, but it is definitely getting worked on in terms of Helen's communicated with a couple of the members of that team. We're just confirming who exactly is going to lead that, but making sure that it happens.
So we'll get it in. We'll get it in as soon as we can. If we can get it in earlier, we will get it in earlier for when the briefing is. But at the minute, that's the provisional date that we've got.
Alrighty, if you've got some interim responses or some interim information available before they come, can I request that we get that so that at least there's some information? And I'm really sorry, there was one other thing. Where are we at with finding out the cost of toilets for Shirley Road? Because I think that was raised as, oh, actually, hang on, can I not raise that here because is it in this? Apologies, everyone. I'll bring that up in Memes Exchange.
Okay, thanks, Ellie. Simon, you're next.
Thank you. Page 138, item 372, the council's draft annual plan. I'm checking if we need a resolution to hold a submissions committee meeting while that consultation's open.
You don't. We thought you might do, but you don't. You gave delegation to me and to Emma to arrange that. So I think we've got a draft date in the diary. I presume we've communicated. I think you will have had a diary entry for the submissions committee. That's in there.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Simon. Mike.
Thank you. Just a quick question, because it's actually not in here, but I thought we had a standing item around Langdon's Road. I didn't see it in the last one, but I'm just... So I thought part of this was trying to highlight some of the key issues that are ongoing in our community board area, just to keep them front of mind. And I thought in the past we'd had Langdon's Road down here, and I don't see it anymore. And so just a question of why that's dropped off, and I guess where we're at with that whole corridor, because it seems to be taking a while to actually get a proper outcome or a proper solution for the increased traffic that's been created down there.
So in terms of why it's dropped off as a standing item, I wasn't aware that it was a standing item. So that may have been lost in because obviously we've had change of staff. Elizabeth is no longer the board advisor, and obviously I've changed as the manager, so that may have been lost in translation. So we can add that back on as a standing item and keep it there for future ones. That's easy. We'll get an update, so we'll find out how we're going with that, and then we'll make sure it's on there for next time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Pauline.
Thank you. So I've just got a question about, and I wasn't here for the presentation, about 3.2.2, sorry. The Shirley Trust has asked the board for endorsement of the proposal to be gifted the building. Have we acted on that yet, or could we make a decision to do that today if we haven't? And then we could, if we haven't already done that, I'd like to just agree to delegate that to perhaps the chair and staff to work on a letter of endorsement. So Emma, have we done anything about that?
We have not done anything about that. We could do
All right, well, I'd like
as
to
part of
move
this
that
area report today. Yep.
I'd like to, just to jump in on that. So yes. Emma and Simon raised that when we met as online to discuss the agenda. The reason that I said hold off on that, there's a report coming through. So we've been in discussion with Shirley Community Trust for a wee while around the gifting of that building and what it might look like. There needs to be a report that comes to the board, and then the board will make a recommendation to council, and then council will make a decision on it.
Okay, so that's when we
there's
do
a
our
formal
endorsement.
process that's on the way. All we're doing, kind of dotting the I's and crossing the T's. We don't want to sell them a lemon, as it were. So we're just making sure what the maintenance schedule looks like, and making sure that we're not going to give them something that they're going to inherit a big problem with. But that report is on it. That report will come to us in the not too distant future.
Okay, thank you. So in 3.5, community groups update. So I'm referring here to the presentation we had from the Belfast Community Network, particularly regarding exhaustion and stress. And at that point, we requested that the mental health issues in that community be drawn to Matt Ducey's attention, because he's the minister responsible, or the spokesperson for mental health. So at that point, Emma Norris, you said that you had met with him. So, and I wanted to ask if you could please provide us an update of that meeting, if you've had a response to him in any way, that it's anything he can do to look at this problem for us. Not today, but if you could get something out to us, that maybe we could, as a board, communicate with him again.
Yeah, I don't believe there were any actions to be taken as a result of that meeting that Elizabeth and I had with him, but I can go back and look over my notes. I'm sure Elizabeth must have got something down as well. And we'll,
I can chip in on this one as well. Sorry, Pauline. So we're doing some work with Merck. So Stacey started a conversation with them to see whether we can put in some kind of workshops and training or things that will do that. I know that there's a free one that has just been arranged for all of the community groups. So that's on its way. And then we've said, actually, if something specific has come up, we will fund internally something which is going to support communities and community workers and volunteers. And that's particularly around mental health and exhaustion. And then Trevor has very helpfully had a conversation with Linda at Belfast, and we've done an internal grant, because Linda raised a few kind of issues that would just make life easier. And so we've done a bit of an internal grant to allow some of that to happen.
Well, that's really good news. But the other side of this conversation was about, and we've always brought this up, that central government has got a responsibility here, and that's another trainer that I think we should be pursuing really strongly. So perhaps if Emma gives us a bit of an update on that, perhaps at the next meeting we might bring an action. And then just the last one, and Ellie touched on this, but it is in here at 3.8.5 was both the youth audit and the Shirley Community Reserve Landscape Plan. At that point, we brought up the toilets there, and wondering if staff have had a look at any portacoms that we could avail ourselves of to put on that site. It is quite a highly used site now. So that was from the last meeting. I'm wondering if staff have actually managed to do anything about that at the moment.
I don't have a specific update on that. We've arranged the site visit, and the other thing that was raised earlier was around the in Jo Burns' public forum. She talked around the the feasibility study.
Yes.
So we're progressing that. So that I've been talking to John and Paul around that again.
Good.
Since
Okay.
that's been raised, and I have raised with them that toilets need to be there.
But we were talking about, in light of the we're not sure about what's happening on the site. So we get something portable, not a portaloo, but a portacom, something decent, then there might be some spare floating around the city somewhere. So if staff could have a quick look around, that'd be great. That's it from me. Thanks.
Thanks, Pauline. Emma.
Firstly, in regards to Belfast, have staff talked with the management of Belfast School as well in regards to the exhaustion issues out there?
Linda and Belfast School Headmaster is part of the Belfast Community Network board, and so Linda has always in discussions with the headmaster out there. So staff haven't actually talked about the issues of in school with them. I know Helen is always talking around the recreation stuff, but the relationship between Belfast Community Network and the school is so tight, with exchange of students and exchange of volunteers and programs, that I've left that mainly with Linda,
Okay.
who reports back the wider issues.
Yeah, because I did have a discussion with a senior staff member, and they weren't really aware of any issues. But what the conclusion that we sort of came to is that it may be a particular group of children within, not just Belfast School, but all schools. And they felt that maybe they weren't actually seeing it in the school, but the before and after care situations were seeing it because they were children who were in care from very early in the day to late at night. They're there during the holidays and they haven't had that that break. So perhaps it's looking involving that, including that in any solutions or anything going forward of that particular sector of the children involved in it.
Sure. I know with the Oscar program, which BCN run, and of course the school parents use that as well, that they've separated staff. There's a drop of kids is separated. The staff are supported by BCN to with their stress levels, and the children as well. And I guess the main thing with BCN is to keep that operation, the Oscar program, going as long as possible to support the parents as well. So I'm well aware of that, and I know the issues around that, but BCN is doing everything they can in conjunction with the school and the parents to keep that going and to keep the safety of children and parents and staff around that.
Excellent. Okay, the moving on to the Edgware pumping station. When we get that information or the briefing that's coming to us, can we have included in that the documentation on the on Edgware Road, the outcome for the drainage on Edgware Road that was included in the Dudley when the Dudley pumping station was put in? Because I know that there was information in that in regards to what was going on Edgware Road. So it'd be interesting to see what was said about it at that time. So if we could have that included in that briefing, that would be good. Westminster Street demolition works. I just want to state again that that's could be a lovely little community space in there. Community gardens are taking off everywhere, and I don't see any community input into either transitional or long-term planning for that site. And I'd really like to see that included in there. And also just carrying on from Mike, seeing Langdon's Road left off. I do believe, and I now, I do feel that I've got community input. This is just, it's not coming from me directly. Courtney Street seems to have been left off here, and there are continual issues being raised in the community in regards to this street. So can we get that back on the table too, please?
Thanks, Emma. We can note that. I just do want to say, though, the reason Langdon's Road was on there is because it was a community board plan priority. That's why it was in that, included in the area report every time.
Yeah. With Courtney Street, the main thing is going back to the poor. We need to know whether Courtney Street was moved forward into stage 1.
Emma, I'm just going to cut you off here. We have asked for a briefing on Courtney Street. I'm not sure where that's at, but we can follow that up. Great. I don't want to take up time in this meeting going over that.
Sorry, I didn't know that briefing had been asked for, so that's great. Thanks.
So we'll chase that up. One last quick thing from me is that 3.2.3, the Shirley Community Trust idea of the McFarlane Park Native Plantings Walkway. I would like to put a resolution in here saying that we would like to see that happen, and would like staff to make contact with the trust around getting that underway. I'm sorry, we probably need some better wording than what I just gave you.
Sorry, and just on that, I mean, I completely agree, Emma. Is it the trust, or is it, I mean, because there's two different organisations there involved. Steve is not part of the trust.
He works under the umbrella of the trust, though.
But so what is his organisation called?
The Shirley Village Project.
That's right. Yeah.
The Shirley Community Trust is the go-to person for this. That was who we spoke to, and that was who came to the board about it.
Yeah, they're leading it, and Steve's on board.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, Emma.
Sorry. Request staff make contact with Shirley Community Trust regarding their. What was the name they had?
I don't think it's in the report, but he used the words Birdsong Trail. But there was native plantings in Birdsong Trail through
Birdsong
McFarlane
Trail
Park
Project.
Workway.
And it's not just native plants, it's big trees as well. So yeah, that's good.
I also want to note in there somewhere that we support project, the idea. So just in that number 5.
Maybe open it with that the
Papanui-Innes
Community Board notes its support. Or end it, yeah.
Yes, support for this project.
Emma, can I put one in as well, please?
Yeah.
The resolution that staff investigate any Portacom toilet facilities that could potentially be sited at 10 Shirley Road. And Portacom toilet facilities that could potentially be sited at 10 Shirley Road. And number 7, that staff work with the 10 Shirley Road group. What are they called? Joe Burns group?
Shirley Road
Shirley Central.
Is it? Thank you. No, that's number 7, Mark. Make it a new one. Yeah.
Do you want to acknowledge that we're also spending some more time with the youth group and looking at their audit, which also sort of feeds into the use of that space?
Yeah, so Quest staff work with Shirley Road Central to progress their idea for signage.
All right, sorry, I thought you meant generally for the site, so I forget what I said. Yep.
Thanks.
There must be still money left of that 15, the money that we put aside for.
Yeah, we haven't spent any of that 15,000. We can discuss all that when we have our site visit next week.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
So it's not about funding, you start first with looking at the project. Okay, thank you.
Finally, Emma, just quickly, the things that I've raised, should they be going in there as well or not? So the birds hasn't gone in just as a line item or to be following up. It's currently with
but that's
CE.
from our last meeting. I think
We already had
those were resolutions in our last meeting.
Yeah.
And it is already being worked on.
Okay, no, that's fine, but I'm just not seeing any sort of ongoing update on what's happening. But I mean, same, we've got Langdon's Road there as well. So anyway, it doesn't matter. It's just the visibility's lost on it, that's all.
Well, it will go in the minutes that it was discussed, I think, won't it?
Okay, all right. No, that's fine.
Well, it doesn't generally, does it?
Oh, it has been these last few, yeah.
It's
Yeah,
at 383 in the area report. There's still a mention of it there, so it hasn't gone away.
Okay, right, we do need to wrap this up, so I'm going to ask for a mover, the seconder for those.
I'm happy to move.
Ali and Pauline has seconded. Put that motion, all those in favour?
Aye.
That is carried. Then finally, elected members information exchange, and if we can just be really quick with this because we've got well over time. Pauline.
Yeah, thank you. I've got an issue with Factory Road, and I've been following it up through the Office of the Chief Executive as well. But I've sent emails to the board and copied you in, and Matt, about the it's Factory Road, Tyrone Street area, about the trucks going through there. It's been to the board before, but not by this person. So there's a whole lot of residents there really suffering from the traffic there. The trucks are bigger than ever. They're speeding. They're going through all hours of the night, and these people's houses are shaking like so badly that they're not sleeping. It's quite bad. They're very stressed. So if you'll find my correspondence there, and I really want to know if there's anything that we can actually do about this to progress it, please. You know, it just seems to be falling on deaf ears. There was a woman a few years ago who was bringing it to the board. So this gentleman's name's Murray, and he is happy to come to the board. Matt, I've already sent you his details. If you could get in touch with him, or Emma, you get in touch with him and tell him how he can make a public forum, because he's happy to, but he hasn't heard from anybody. So a lot of the trucks are going to the freezing works, and also they're damaging the roads really badly, and the council's going out and just patching them, and then as soon as the next truck goes over it, it collapses again. It's also causing water mains to continually blow, and also on some of the mains on private property. So if you could dig out the emails I've sent about that, that would be really helpful. The other thing quickly is Clive Smith has sent an email about potential cycleway link from Northwood through to the Northern Arterial there, but would obviously have to, and along Radcliffe Road. So I think he needs a response there, that it's a great idea. We'd like to possibly pick that up for the future, but there will be challenges at the railway line. So we haven't got time to discuss it at the moment, but whether we want to put that as an item in the future. And the other thing is the ECAN submission. I think we should do one. We could cobble one up after the presentation next week. And have we had an invite to the OCHT opening at Coles Place? Because
not yet.
The gentleman who spoke to us said that we could expect one. Thank you.
Thanks, Pauline. We will follow up those things. Emma.
Okay, very quickly. I've had the safety for pedestrians on Springfield Road, particularly Springfield Aberley Crescent and St Albans Street, Springfield Road. The dangers to pedestrians trying to get across that road, and again, just there is no crossing on Springfield Road at all for people to cross. So it'd be really good to start looking at that issue. Also, I've had quite a few conversations with people in regards to cycle and e-bike, both driving and parking etiquette, and wondering if we could suggest that the City Council may want to look at doing some education around those etiquettes. And that was it from me.
Right, thanks for bringing those up, Emma. Ellie.
Very quickly, because I know we're over time. Looking at those entranceways along Waitomo and placemakers and so forth, with the signage that is there for cars, I'm just wondering whether there should be some signage there, and I know we don't want a whole lot of signs, but whether there should be some signage there for cyclists, only so that, because when you're biking down there, you're looking ahead and not really looking at those entrance and exits ways. I mean, even something like cars crossing, or just something that at least raises the issue, so that then there is as much, it's defensive driving essentially for cyclists as well as that. And I'm just wondering whether that's something that's been considered.
Ellie, we do have a DEMP update which includes that
cool.
cycleway thing coming up next, and signage for cyclists was discussed at the last briefing we had on that, along that stretch too.
Cool. Alrighty, thanks.
We are well over time. Emma, was it something really, really quick?
Yeah, really, really quick. I'm really disappointed in the Snap Send Solve. I've put in twice, and I think I've also put it through the community board in regards to the site, the water pumping station site. the vines are all over the next door neighbour's property, and it's been about a month. And the woman who lives there keeps coming back to me, and it's actually thoroughly embarrassing that the issue has not been solved. So I just want to raise that.
Have you put that one through board requests?
I have, yeah. I've put it through board requests. I've put it through snaps. It's and it's actually over. I mean, it's right over her roof.
Yeah. Okay. Well, can we get staff to follow up on that one, please? Right.
Thanks.
I'm going to close the meeting. So thank you very much, everyone.
Great.